Hello, I am Dr. Randall Bell, and I'm here with the very famous and accomplished Tanya Brown. A lot of people, in fact, I don't know anybody who doesn't know who you are. I mean, literally.
You'd be surprised.
I would be surprised. Tanya, of course, is the sister Nicole Brown Simpson, and we know that whole story. We're really not going to go into that. We're really here to talk about more positive things, because the thing that we've been friends for decades.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know that not only your family went through that, horrible ordeal, losing your sister, but you're a mental health expert.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a master's degree. You're highly trained in some really important topics. So we're kind of here more to focus on that and what we can share in terms of helping people raise their core IQ.
Right.
Does that sound good?
Yes, sounds fabulous and much needed.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the T.A.N.Y.A formula.
Okay.
Now, the T.A.N.Y.A formula you developed how long ago?
Oh my goodness, this was probably maybe 10 years, no, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
So it kind of came out of my book, where Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, my escape from depression and suicide. Mm-hmm. And I came up with 12 tools in the back of the book because I realized as people were reading the book, it was just a sad story. It was just another book that you put up on the shelf. And I said to my co-writer, people are thirsty for solutions. And so he said, come up with 5 to 7 things that you used because I was in the hospital. I attempted a suicide, obviously. It goes with the subtitle of my book. And he said, give me 5 to 7 things that you used when you were in the psych unit that you still use today. So I came up with 12, but we can't use the 12-step program because obviously that's already taken.
Yeah.
So I came up with the Tanya formula, but again, there's 12. So I never had time to share all 12. So through some coaching, we created together the Tanya formula. And it's basic. It's something that they were the 5 things that came out of those 12 steps, but just different titles. And so the coach that I had was very creative. He said, do you realize what you just created? I'm like, no. And he said the T.A.N.Y.A formula. And so after my keynotes, this is what I end up with. Mm-hmm. And I share this with them. Because say, for example, if you're sitting in traffic and you're stressed out because you've got a meeting and you're clenching your hands and you're all stressed and you're allowing chaos to consume you. Mm-hmm. So these are just like basic steps that you can do every day. We already know them. Majority of people know what we're about to talk about. Mm. But sadly, so very few implement them, or at least know how, because there's not a system.
Okay.
Right? So instead of like winging it, like, okay, I'm going to do some deep breathing, all of that, which is all helpful, the T.A.N.Y.A formula has worked for me. It has worked for numerous other people. It's worked for my clients, past and present, and it's real basic.
Okay, so that's kind of how the T.A.N.Y.A formula came to be.
Yeah.
Why don't we just work through it and learn from this whole thing?
Awesome. Okay. So the T in the T.A.N.Y.A formula is we all have to talk about it. Whatever your it is, you have to talk about your challenges, your emotional chaos. Because what I failed to do, but this is what's different, is that what I always thought that I wore my heart on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. I always thought I showed my emotions and here I am. What you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. However, what people don't know is that I buried 6 friends of mine in high school.
Really?
Yeah. So I had a lot of grief, a lot of pain. And when you're a kid back then in high school, back in the 80s, we didn't have what the therapists have or what students have today. We didn't have counselors. We didn't have first responders. We had, where are you going to go to college after Dana Hills High School?
Right.
So we didn't have, the processing experience.
Right.
So you'd go to school on a Friday, and then on Monday, your friend Larry's dead because he died in a car accident.
Wow.
So a friend of mine here, so we're shooting at Strands, a friend of mine fell off the cliff over here. Oh. And so just a lot of trauma. Again, nobody there to process. My parents, World War II, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, carry on. Whatever you do, don't feel. My parents never said don't feel. I'm going to clarify that. But that generation had a completely different set of coping skills.
Right.
So it wasn't until 2004 when I attempted my suicide that I really learned how to throw up, as I call it psychologically throwing up. So when I was in the psych unit, I learned how to talk. I learned how to express. I learned how to just really open up and talk about just all the pain. And so when I say talk about it, Randy, I almost hit my psychiatrist. I threw my teddy bear. I threw the rubber pencils that they give you in the psych unit. They don't give you hard pencils, right?
Oh, wow.
Just in case if you hurt somebody or yourself.
Right.
So that in and of itself was a complete experience. But the most important thing, the T, it's my first T in the Tanya formula, is because we need to talk about what I call the tornado of chaos. And that could be anything from losing your cat, getting a divorce, a job transition, life transition,
Right.
empty nesters, whatever that is, we all have some sort of pain, and pain is immeasurable.
Yeah.
So my T in the talk about it is like, you've got to talk about whatever your it is, because it's critical and essential for emotional well-being.
I get that. I remember the first time I met you, you may not even remember this, but we were at your family's kitchen table, all sitting around, and you started talking. Speaking of T is for talk, and honestly, what I was thinking was, man, this girl is very articulate. I never would have known you didn't know how to talk, but talking is so important. Like in the volunteer work I do with the prisoners, that's what we're trying to get them to do, is open up about this garbage that they're holding in, because that's what kind of led to them being in prison. And in terms of maybe having a shot at parole, and if they are paroled, staying out of prison, you got to let that, shame and that guilt out. And what I love about what you're saying is you're very open about the fact, in fact, you wrote it, it's on the title of your book, that you tried to commit suicide. Now that's, a lot of people would say that's really pretty ugly. It is pretty ugly.
Yes.
But you're not trying to hide it and bury it and forget about it, because you're talking the talk.
Exactly.
You let it out.
I let it out, but now I know how to let it out. Mm-hmm. So, and we'll talk about the different steps too. Right. But the thing is that a lot of people don't know how to talk their feelings. They don't know how to share it. So if you like to play music, if you are a big texter, if you like to type on the computer, if you like to journal, whatever that is for you, whatever we have in here in the gut, that's we try to fill our pain with unhealthy behavior, whether it's gambling, sex, food, drugs, alcohol. We all have pain. And Russell Brand said one time, actually a few times, he said, we all have a hole in our soul. So it's very important for us to release that pain, but also feed it with really healthy behavior. That's what I love about the Me, We, Do, Be book. It's like, it's just creating new life skills, feeding your soul. But in order to really live a fulfilling life, you got to talk about your pain. Yeah. Because we're pressure cookers. And how I always like to describe it is that, we've got pain and it builds up and it builds up. And eventually it gets to here and then we pop. And that explosion does not need to happen. And that happened to me on October 9th. I mean, I remember that day. Totally snapped. So I want to encourage your viewers and your listeners to really talk about your it. It doesn't need to be a murder or a suicide. Again, pain is immeasurable.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the prisoners, their it were actually pretty small things. But they they were too embarrassed to say something like, my family doesn't have enough money. That's kind of, I'm embarrassed. I don't have anything to eat today. Those were their its, but they bottled it up, and then it exploded, and then they're in prison. So, this is a really powerful anecdote. My parents are a lot like your parents. World War II, my dad was an engineer, not a lot of talking, that kind of thing. It's time, and they're wonderful people. Your parents are terrific. Yeah. Mine are terrific. But it's time to kind of step it up and realize that this really helps. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm grateful that you see that. How this formula also came about is that in 2012, when Facebook was starting to, come what we see today. Right. And numerous times all throughout, I'm reading these Facebook messages of, suicide, depression, addiction, and just dysfunctional behavior. And here I was sitting on this story. Right. And I'm like, my God, my story,
even though a lot of people can't go out there and say, hey, I attempted a suicide.
Right.
But when I got out of my own self and started focusing in on what other people were going through, that's when I got out of my own way. And I realized, okay, we need to do something here.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
So, and then you also have kind of a T2.
It's the bonus.
The bonus T in Tanya. Tell us about the T2.
So the danger of today is that we are way too connected to, our cell phones, our iPads, everything with an I, right? And not to dog Apple or anything like that.
Right.
I'm gonna, clarify that. Whether it's a green guy or an iPad, the I thing. We are way too connected to technology. So the other T is technological detox. It's really, really important. There is a psychiatrist who once worked with the T.A.N.Y.A clinic in Costa Mesa. And his name is Lawrence Tucker, Dr. Lawrence Tucker. And this, I think, was probably in 2000. God, I don't even remember. I'm not going to put a date on it. But I asked him, I go, Dr. Tucker, why on earth are we seeing so much chaos, so much depression, anxiety, bullying, suicide, and the list goes on.
Right.
He goes, it's easy. And I'm like, okay, what is it? He let me wait, right, to sit on that. And he says, that's easy. The brain is stressed. And I was like, oh my God, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
And again, our brains are not wired to be on all the time. So that's why I'm an advocate for meditation, slowing down, taking a walk on the beach, getting connected with one another. Remember when we were growing up, we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
And when the phone rang with the telemarketers, we didn't answer it.
Right.
Or we would unplug the phone during dinner time.
Sure.
Daddy always said, no TV during dinner. It's family time.
Right.
So there's, for example, there's this thing that started in New York City, and I forgot what they call it, but it's when you go out with a whole bunch of your friends for dinner or your family, you have a basket on the middle of the table, and everybody puts their cell phone in there. So it's all about just connecting with one another, slowing down the brain, slowing down the mind. Your best anti-anxiety drug is your breath.
Bingo, yeah.
It's your breath.
Yeah.
But we can't do that. We can't slow down if we don't know how to do that.
Yeah. It's so funny. You've met my little boy Drake. He's a senior at Laguna Beach High School, but he's a great kid, but he's kind of gotten addicted to technology, specifically video games.
Yeah.
And he's a surfer, and he's a really bright student, and he's got a terrific girlfriend. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
But he does have this kind of addiction to technology. So last night, he comes home from school and he sends me a text. And he says, Dad, where's my game controls? And I said, work on that GPA, read a book, da-da-da. And you would have thought World War III broke out,
It's an addiction.
I just, in fact, I saved the messages to send around to the family. It was so hilarious because his head exploded. And then last night I'm sitting on the couch watching the Laker game, and he came down and sat next to me, and we ate popcorn and watched the game.
Exactly.
And it's like, I said, Drake, we all went out to dinner. I said, Drake, I'm happy to put up with the wrath of Drake, with your little, video game withdrawals.
Right.
But this technology thing, it's gone too far.
It's a huge addiction.
And let's play basketball, play tennis, or do something. But there's got to be a limit here.
Exactly. And how cool was that? You're sitting on the couch with your son, eating popcorn. He's going to be going to college.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
Yeah.
So parents for who are viewing this right now, do exactly what you did.
Yeah.
It's like get to know your kids again.
Yeah. And he was trying to negotiate with me. He's like, Dad, if you let me play tonight, I won't play the rest of the week. I've heard that so much.
Many times.
It's like game over.
I think actually technological addiction, I think it's in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and it's the 5th edition.
Really?
And I think it is. I haven't seen it, but from what I heard, it either is or I've heard about actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's a true addiction.
Yeah.
And I read the other day, the average person all throughout the day will spend an average 6 to 8 hours in front of a computer, or in front of your iPhone or iPad.
Yeah.
Instead of, and then here your kids go off to college, and then you're with your spouse, and it's like you don't even know each other.
Right.
So taking a break from technological detox, it's going to improve every area. And I'm not saying take a day off, even though that would be phenomenal.
Right.
But 10 minutes intermittently all throughout the day can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Totally agree. And in my book, Me We Do Be, I call it digital drugs.
Yes.
We have the same conversation. And by the way, for those who don't know, the DSM manual that Tanya just referred to, it's the manual that psychologists use to kind of, understand human behavior. So that's what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So have we covered everything you want to talk with the team? Speaking of talking?
Yep.
Okay. So A is attention on the positive.
Yes, but how can you see the positive if your brain is so wired and stressed out?
Right.
So it's when we slow down, which majority of people have a hard time being still in their own body. They have a hard time. As a society, we always think that the more productive we are, the more busy we are, the more successful we'll be.
Right.
Not the case. When we slow down, we are able to see the positive in all, excuse my language, the crap that is going on in our life. But we are too busy to pay attention and to see that positive too, as I call the silver lining.
Yeah.
Because we all have a silver lining in the chaos. Losing Nicole to murder, we either as a family or me individually could have sat and be, sulk in that situation.
Right.
Instead, through the support of community and our society and globally, actually, we were able to see, okay, Nicole was a victim of domestic violence. Let's do something. Right? So we all have that power to turn an ugly situation, a chaotic situation. Again, it's immeasurable. You can't measure chaos.
Right.
So, but as we all have that capability to turn something really ugly into something very positive.
Right.
We hear about people come into our life for a reason, a season, a lifetime. I say people and situation experiences come into your life for a lesson. So unless we sit down and really just calm our mind, how are we supposed to assess, what's the lesson in this? So, as you know, I am a survivor of an assault last year, psychological assault, which warranted a 5-year restraining order.
Right.
But over the process of this, because it was a year ago, over this year, I really, really sat in Tanya. And I was like, what's the lesson in this? And I discovered my own reasons, because this person came into my life for a season, a reason, but more so a lesson. But it wasn't until I was able to go, okay, slow down. What did I learn from this? That's when I saw the silver lining. This person came into my life for a lesson. And that's okay. So again, no matter what it is that you're going through, we need to slow down the mind and really see what's going on. What's that positive lining? Now, I get ridiculed for that one because a lot of people say, so what you're saying when my kid committed suicide or my husband or my partner, my best friend died in a car accident, got killed in a car accident, you expect me to see the silver lining in the chaos? Okay. You have a roof over your head. Right? And we'll talk about the attitude of gratitude later. But it's use your trauma to teach other people how you got through it. And if you haven't gone through it, get with a support group. Help other people see there's something positive in this. And what that is, I don't know. Maybe it's different for everyone.
Right.
But there's always a silver lining in the mess.
Well, one of the things about your family is that a lot of people see the images from the trial and they see people who understandably were in shock and angry. But I know your family, and it's actually, speaking of positive, it's really fun hanging out with your family. I mean, your dad and I used to go to lunch down here in Dana Point, and he was just like the most positive, cool dude you could imagine.
Yep.
Your mom too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I mean, your family went through this world famous horrific event, and yet knowing your family, it's a very positive thing. So if your family can do it, anybody can do it.
Exactly.
Really.
And I want people, that's my hope for people to use this Tanya formula and pay attention to that positive. But I attribute it to, my mom and my dad.
Right.
And my mom is so positive to the point when I'm having a bad day, it irritates me because she's so positive. And the great thing about her, she always says this, she goes, I don't live in the past. Mm-hmm. And so I want to share with people by simply her sharing that with me, it's make your life experience, identify with it, but don't make it your identity.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to release that. Again, talk about it, technological detox, and there's always that silver lining. Even if you can't find it, get with people who can. Yeah. Get with people who can help you see, okay, let's turn this around. And that's my mom.
Yeah. Well, and I remember your mom telling me something. She said, it was right when the trial was going on. I mean, it was right in the middle of the chaos. Mm-hmm. And she said, our family used to all be upbeat, and now one person might be down, so we take turns, kind of lifting the other one up.
We all grieve. That's the messy thing with grief. So especially for people who are watching these videos, these series, if you're grieving, again, more important to talk about it, but also understand everybody grieves differently.
Right.
So Denise grieved and created the foundation.
Right.
Dominique grieved later on through, her work and other things. With me, I grabbed onto a dysfunctional relationship because I don't have children, and my sisters and my mom and dad, they had their grandchildren and their children. With me, I needed that safety net. So I found my grieving outlet, right? So again, everybody grieves differently, and that's when you do have to lift each other up because, we're a very positive family, but it was chaos.
Yeah, it was, but I got to say, you've navigated very successfully, and I'm not trying to say, hey, you just found out someone was killed in a car crash, be happy. There's a period, and there's no rule.
Exactly.
Where there's shock, there's anger, there's denial, all those steps of grief.
Right.
But I am saying that after some appropriate period, it's important to make those choices to focus more on the positive side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I'm able to talk about all of this and created this how many years after my attempted suicide.
Right.
So this doesn't come overnight. We all need to learn skills.
Yeah.
But unless you have tools in your toolbox, you don't know what tool to reach out for.
Yeah.
So again, it's just there's always something positive.
Yeah.
Look at the fires. We just experienced this huge trauma where people are actually walking through infernos and driving through. So at the end of the day, we all have something we need to be our
Yeah, the world's a tough place.
Especially now.
We know. I just found out yesterday our CPA, our CPA for Core IQ and everything, who we've had for 30 plus years, his home and his business just burned down in the Paradise Fires.
Oh.
We just found out yesterday.
Oh no!
So we're trying to figure out as an office what we can do to support him. But it's shocking.
Yes.
And there's no sugarcoating that.
No.
But, at some appropriate time, you got to go here. But right now we are where we are.
You have to feel, okay? We have to feel. As a society, we're not taught how to feel. Okay, look back in elementary school, you're crying, go to the principal's office. You're crying, here's a cookie. We don't allow people to feel anymore. And how are we able to talk about something if we don't know how to feel?
Right.
How are we able to see the positive in anything if we're not allowed to feel? So I encourage people to go through that grieving process. And then in your own time, you eventually... it's been 25 years since Nicole, almost 25 years since Nicole. This did not happen overnight.
Right.
I had to go through a lot of hell and a lot of crap to get to this point.
Right.
So I encourage people to face that grief.
Yeah. I kind of said it, I got to say it again. I mean, you have both the quintessential experience with losing your sister, plus you have the academic qualifications. I hope people are getting that if you're going to get, really what works this we're hearing it now, and the other thing is we all know arrogant people.
Yes.
And they're the ones saying, that doesn't apply to me. That attitude causes 80% of the disasters I work on.
Yes.
And the other 20% are natural disasters,
exactly.
which there's no one to blame. but this is good stuff. So anything else on the positive?
No,
You want to
I think
move
we're
on
good.
to the end?
I think we're good.
Okay, so nurture yourself. I like the sound of it.
Exactly. Nurture yourself. We schedule moments like this. We schedule soccer practices, ballet classes. We schedule meetings all throughout the day.
Right.
What about us?
Yeah.
We are the most important vessel in order to function throughout our day. But how do we do that? You've got to schedule. I'm a big planner. I'm a big scheduler. So I schedule times hanging out with my mom, playing with my crazy cat, playing with my crazy dog, whatever that. Go surf if that's your thing. Just like Drake.
Yeah.
Go take a walk. Again, it says here, do something every day just for 10 minutes. Psychology and research shows now when you take time for yourself, you're more productive, you're more efficient, and hey, people will want to hang out with you. Unless you start nurturing yourself, again, we need to talk about it. We need to stay in the positive. And then you're like, okay, what can I do today? So it's starting your day off with an intention, right? You can read a devotional. You have these calendars that say December 1st. Read that devotional. And then just start your day off with an intention. That in and of itself is nurturing yourself. Yeah. I always ask my clients, if time and money weren't an issue, what would you be doing? Okay, and a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I used to love to garden. I love to paint, but I don't do it anymore. Or I love to hike, but I don't have time to do it anymore. We all have the same 24 hours a day in our day. So, we all struggle. I'm not perfect, right? Neither are you.
I did not know that. Here I thought you were.
No, we only know the most perfect human being. But, again, when you fall off the train, at least you've got a tool to pop back on, a train to get back on. So, again, it doesn't take, you don't need an hour. If you want an hour to go to the gym, go walk, paint. We've got meetup.coms, right? And I don't know if you are familiar with meetup.coms. So meetup.com, if you go, it's obviously it's online, but it's not about a hookup, right? It's not about a relationship. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to that.
Okay.
But it's more of you type in your hobbies, you type in your interests.
Right.
And then you connect with the community who are like-minded individuals. So a lot of people don't know what to do, where to go. Go to meetup.com. If you like wine and food, there's winers and foodies out there, right? whatever you call them. There's hiking groups, there's swimming groups, there's dancing groups, live music groups. But do something that makes your heart smile.
Get out there.
Yeah. I love live music. That's nurturing me. I love live music. I love to dance. And so that's my nurturing.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love that. I don't know if you know this, but I wrote this book about Leo Fender with Mrs. Fender.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Fender's 84 years old. She's been through 2 accidents and had surgeries in just the last year. And she's still out there. She found out Willie Nelson was in town. Yeah. And so we called Willie's, manager, and they said, bring Mrs. Fender down. So, she's out there, and she just had a medical problem a few weeks before, but nothing stops her. Even at 84, getting out there and seeing her and Willie, backstage.
So cool.
For me, it was just like bliss. I like Willie, but I'm more a Led Zeppelin guy.
Right.
But to see her connect, you're never too old for this stuff.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to the technological detox. We need to put that stuff away. And oh my gosh, cherish those moments.
Yeah.
Right? It's just put that stuff away and just experience the things that are happening around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
People laughing, people smiling, going to a comedy club, something that makes you laugh. You can laugh at yourself to health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So laughing, that's why I don't get fillers because, they go away right away because I smile all the time. So again, it doesn't take an hour, 10 minutes through just a day can add years to your life and put less gray hair on your head.
Okay, too late for that for me. But anyway, okay. Anything else on Ed?
No,
Are you ready?
we're good.
Okay, so you time. You covered a little bit of this already, but what do you want to talk about you time?
Again, you have to schedule you.
Yeah.
So whether and when you travel, what does the flight attendant always say? Put the oxygen mask on yourself
right,
first.
sure, sure.
But in order for us to nurture ourselves, we need to schedule it.
Okay.
So a lot of us, psychology says pen to paper is the best thing, right? It just gets retained into the brain at a stronger level instead of putting your schedule in your. And I'm pointing over here to the iPhone, where instead of putting your appointments on your cell phone, get it printed out on Outlook and budget your time. We don't budget our finances in our head or on our cell phone. Some people do.
Right.
But when you put pen to paper, you can see where all your time is being allotted. And you will be very surprised how much time you actually have left over. 2, do yoga. To schedule things that nurture yourself.
Right.
That make your heart sing, that makes you smile, that makes you laugh. But unless you schedule it, majority of people put themselves off, I'll start going to the gym tomorrow, or I'll start my diet tomorrow. Well, guess what? You're going to turn 80 and then you're going to go,
oh shoot,
I should have scheduled that.
Life's over.
Life's over,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So again, our time is very precious, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Am I perfect at this? No way. But at least when I know that I fall off the track, I have this to jump back onto.
Yeah.
Again, as a world, as a society, we think being selfish is bad. And selfish really is doing something for your own good, but harming somebody else. So let's turn the word selfish into something positive.
Right.
Be selfish, because without you being well, and I've said this to numerous psychiatrists and therapists, without you being well and taking care of yourself first, you are no good to people like me or anyone around you, because you're going to be hypervigilant, irritated, whatever, irritable. Again, if you don't schedule time to nurture yourself, you're just running through the muck of life.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, totally cool. And last one, the A in Tanya, attitude of gratitude.
Yes. So we all hear about gratitude journaling. And very few people, shockingly, don't know about this. So if you start the day off with intention, as we've spoken about before, but imagine what you can do for your mental well-being at the end of the evening. Write down 5 things that you were grateful for that day. It could have been, oh my gosh, I was so stressed out, but somebody gave me a smile and it lightened up my spirit. Or I heard a baby's laugh, which drives me crazy, but it's cute, But there's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's all about when we give back, we receive so much more. So just try to do, how do we maintain and sustain that act of gratitude? Is journal, give back, because when we see other people going through so much chaos and pain and struggle, yet we're complaining about, oh my God, I can't pay my rent, and I don't have a roof, or I have a roof over my head, but my kids are driving me crazy. My husband, my wife, they're driving me crazy, whatever that is. Be grateful that you have a roof. Be grateful you even have dirty dishes in your sink, because that means that you have food and dishes to eat on.
Yeah.
So things, the smallest things that we can pay gratitude to, we take for granted.
Yeah.
You know, don't take things for granted. Write down, and I challenge your viewers, write down even one thing that you were grateful for during the day. Guaranteed, whenever I tell people to do this or encourage them to do it, they come up with like 10 or 20 things. Because when your pen starts writing, it's like, oh my God, that was kind of cool that happened today.
Yeah.
I saw a beautiful bird. My mom last night, she goes, oh my God, Tanya, she goes, my mom has a bird in a cage.
Oh.
She said, here I am sitting on the couch, and this beautiful bird, it was like a falcon or something, flew into her home.
Really?
Instead of my mom getting all mad that a bird came in and getting all scared, she was like, God, this bird was so beautiful. Oh my, and she really paid attention to the wings as it was flying out. And so again, she was like, I'm grateful that there's so much beauty in the world.
Wow.
But that's my mom.
That's your mom.
With us, with the normal, with like the average human being, we would be going, oh my God, the bird came into the house and was going to eat the bird and all this. But always be grateful for the small things, you know?
Yeah. So everyday life.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of gratitude, I'm grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful that you've come and shared time. You know, Tanya is a very in-demand speaker. In fact, I was just at Orange County Airport a couple weeks ago, and I sent you a text because I'd seen something. I thought, I bet Tanya would be interested in this. So I forwarded it to you, and you said something about at the airport.
I was at the airport.
I'm at gate 4. What gate? You were gate 7.
Yep.
So ran
That
down
was so funny.
and said hello to each other. But Tanya was giving a speech somewhere on the East Coast.
Massachusetts,
yeah, and you're speaking. So I appreciate, a lot of people go to great lengths to hear what you have to say. The cool thing about Core IQ is you can watch this video, rewatch it, share it, and tap in on resources here that are just, they don't get better.
Yeah.
So speaking of gratitude, thanks for coming on,
You're
Tanya.
welcome.
All
You're
right.
welcome. Thank you.
See you guys later.